The famous Golden State of California is best known for sun, sea, and style, yet a dark cloud hung over the North Bay area during the early 1970s, when a disturbing number of female hitchhikers were found murdered on various embankments and creek beds. Police struggled in their efforts to identify potential killers, with some notorious names being thrown into the mix of suspects. However, to this day, the crimes remain unsolved. Located approximately an hour north of San Francisco in Sonoma County sits the city of Santa Rosa. The bustling city is known for its rolling hills, wildflowers, cuisine, and entertainment. But Santa Rosa is primarily known for its wineries and is nicknamed by some as the craft brew capital of the United States. It was the 5th of March 1972, and two high school students were out riding their motorcycles in a rural area near Santa Rosa. As they rode between Enterprise Road and Bennett Valley Road intersection, their eyes were drawn to an unusual sight. Initially, on first glance, the pair believed that they were looking at a discarded mannequin lying face down in the creek bed. However, they would soon discover the horrifying truth. It was the naked body of a woman who was later identified as 19-year-old Kim Allen. Kim Wendy Allen was born on the 22nd of July 1956, and in 1972 she was a, quote, happy and sociable art student attending Santa Rosa Junior College. The night before her body was discovered, on March 4th, she had been hitchhiking from her workplace, Larkspur Natural Foods, to her home on Guerneville Road in Santa Rosa. Two men decided to pick her up and give her a ride, their last sighting of her at approximately 5:30 in the evening. They told authorities they had seen her with a backpack and that she had carried a large wooden soy barrel with red Chinese characters on it. Furthermore, they stated that they had dropped Kim off between Bell Avenue and the 101 intersection. Upon examining the body found in the creek bed, it was clear that Kim had been bound at her wrists and ankles, sexually assaulted and slowly asphyxiated with rope wire for approximately 30 minutes. Traces of semen were also found on the body, and a single golden hoop earring was found at the scene. There was also evidence that the killer may have stumbled while trying to dispose of the body, as there was a 14-inch deep impression halfway down the creek embankment. The two men who had picked up Kim in their vehicle were questioned and subsequently cleared of any involvement following polygraph tests. On the day she was murdered, Kim carried numerous personal belongings with her, which were never recovered. These items included blue jeans, a maxi skirt with a blue floral print, a beige coat which was 3/4 length, a silver and opal turquoise ring, a 24-inch long necklace which was noted to have been adorned with seashells, driftwood, moss, seeds, eucalyptus buttons and seaweed, a gold-coloured plastic hair barrette, a blue straw bag, also measuring at 24 inches, a green-coloured cloth purse with an Indian design, a checkbook, 2 individual checks, a personal Rosenberg's department store card, a large-sized aluminium-framed backpack in the colour orange, and she also carried a 19-pound soy barrel bearing Chinese characters. On the 24th of March, authorities retrieved Kim's backpack, and it was found that her checkbook had been left in a mailbox parallel to the Kentfield post office. Police later believed that Kim Wendy Allen was not the first victim of an unidentified serial killer. Overall, police would confirm 7 victims and many others whom they believe are all connected to the same killer. The community was further rocked when it was reported that 12-year-old Maureen Sterling and her friend Yvonne Weber, 13, vanished following a trip to the Redwood Empire Ice Arena on Guerneville Road, Santa Rosa, on the 4th of February 1972, having been dropped off at 7:30 p.m. that evening. The girls, who attended Herbert Slater Middle School, were last seen hitchhiking northwest of Santa Rosa around 9 p.m. 2 hours later, at 11 p.m, a parent of one of the girls arrived to pick them up. However, the girls were nowhere to be seen. Word of mouth suggested that they had decided to join 4 boys at a park. However, after lie detector tests, the boys were cleared of any involvement in the disappearance of Yvonne and Maureen. The next morning, the Sterling and Weber families reported the pair as missing. However, initially police believed them to be runaways, and investigating their vanishing was not a particularly high priority. Both families urged police to take the case more seriously, as the girls' disappearance was alarming and out of character. County police and volunteers aided in the search, combing the city and surrounding rural areas. However, their efforts provided no clues as to what happened to Maureen and Yvonne. Months passed with no answers, their loved ones living in daily agony, wondering what had happened, however, holding on to the hope that they would be found. It wasn't until December 28th when, down a steep embankment 2 miles north of Porter Creek Road on Franz Valley Road, the bodies of Yvonne and Maureen were discovered. Once again, there was a single filigree teardrop-style earring left at the scene, along with orange beads and a 14-karat gold necklace bearing a cross. Chillingly, none of these items belonged to Yvonne or Maureen. When they were discovered, the remains were skeletal and had been scattered around the vicinity. The cause of death for both girls could not be determined. Personal effects were missing from both girls. Maureen was last known to have been wearing blue jeans, brown suede shoes, a purple shirt, and a red hooded sweatshirt with a zip. Yvonne was last known to have been wearing brown suede shoes and blue jeans, as well as a light purple and white tweed shirt and a velvet black coat. None of these items have ever been found. In 2019, an acquaintance of Maureen and Yvonne stated that the girls had told them that they had been asked to smoke marijuana by a slender, tall man with short black hair and a prominent nose, who looked to have been in his late teens or early 20s. This witness further stated that this unidentified man had been keeping a watchful eye on those using the ice rink from within the ice arena's lobby. Upon the discovery of Maureen and Yvonne's bodies, the community of Santa Rosa became panicked, as it was clear that a serial killer was freely walking the city's streets, as just weeks earlier, another woman had vanished and been found murdered. Laurie Lee Cursa was born in California in February of 1959 to Homer Lee and Lorraine Cursa. On the 11th of November 1972, Laurie was reported missing by her mother, Lorraine. However, the exact date she vanished remains unclear. The 13-year-old Lawrence Cook middle school student had been shopping with her mother and was known to frequently run away from home and hitchhike. According to the police, Laurie had been spending nights with friends, who reportedly last saw Laurie on the 30th of November. Furthermore, another report in the media suggested Laurie was last seen on the 20th of November at a U-Save market by a clerk. Down a steep embankment on the west of Calistoga Road, Laurie's frozen remains were found on December 14th in a ravine, very near to Santa Rosa. Authorities determined that when she was found, she had been dead for approximately 2 weeks. The autopsy concluded that she had died from a broken neck with traumatic compression and hemorrhaging of the spinal cord, and furthermore had not been sexually assaulted. It was thought by some that her body had been thrown from a moving vehicle and had subsequently rolled down the embankment. A pair of hoop earrings were found at the scene, although reports conflict in regards to whether Laurie had been wearing them or even if the earrings belonged to her. Her clothes, brown suede cowboy-style boots, blue bell-style trousers, and a brown leather jacket were missing. A possible witness told police that between the 3rd and 5th of December, they had witnessed a girl matching Laurie's description wearing the same missing clothes being thrown into a van by a Caucasian man with an afro hairstyle. The van was described as being in a less than ideal condition and white. However, the driver's door was noted to have been discoloured. The witness went on to state that they then saw the van speeding away up Calistoga Road. In February of 1973, 15-year-old Carolyn Nadine Davis ran away from her home near Anderson in Shasta County. Her family reported her missing on the 4th of February 1973. However, she wasn't officially reported missing until the 15th of July that same year, as it was found that she had been staying with her grandmother between February and July. Carolyn had also reportedly sent a letter which had been postmarked in Soledad, California, to her family, with media reports stating she had disclosed to them that she had travelled to San Diego, New York, and New Mexico. However, this was never confirmed. On July 15th, 1973, Carolyn's grandmother had dropped her off at Garberville Post Office, and she was last seen with the intention of hitchhiking to Modesto. The body of Carolyn Davis was discovered by a motorcyclist on July 31st, 150 miles from where she was last seen. In a chilling twist, Carolyn's body was found merely 3 feet away from where Maureen Sterling and Yvonne Weber had been found 7 months prior. It was apparent that the body had been thrown from the road, and toxicology reports concluded that Carolyn had died about 2 weeks prior due to being poisoned by a strong dose of strychnine, and any evidence of sexual assault could not be determined. Like previous victims, her body was nude and her clothes were nowhere to be found. Teresa Diane Smith Walsh was a 23-year-old from Miranda in Humboldt County who was last seen on the 22nd of December 1973 at Zuma Beach in Malibu. She had hoped to hitchhike her way to Garberville to spend the festive season with her family, including her 2-year-old son. On the 28th of December, her partially submerged body was discovered by kayakers in Mark West Creek near Michelle Way in Franz Valley in Santa Rosa. Teresa had been hogtied with rope, strangled and sexually assaulted. Authorities determined that she had passed away approximately a week earlier, yet the autopsy determined that her body had only been in the water for a maximum time of 48 hours. High water marks on the body suggested that Teresa had probably drifted several miles along the creek. Her light purple blouse, white bell-style trousers, ankle-length waffle-style hiking boots, a brown fur-lined hooded coat, and her green Boy Scout backpack were missing. On the 6th of July 1979, skeletal remains were discovered near Calistoga Road. Laurie Lee Cursa had been found at the side of the road in a ravine 7 years earlier. The unidentified Jane Doe lay only 100 yards from where Laurie was discovered. The victim had once again been bound by thin rope, and it was found that she had suffered a fractured arm at the time of the murder. However, a cause of death could not be determined. The nameless woman was approximately 16 to 21 years of age, 5'3" tall, had red or brown hair, possibly wore contact lenses, and had a healed broken rib. At the scene, a small tin was found with a cherry design on it, with a contact lens within it. It's not known whether this belonged to the victim. Pieces of a laundry or duffel bag were also found in the area. The way Jane Doe had been bound was similar to the way that Teresa Walsh had been many months prior, with the cord around her neck able to tighten if the woman struggled. An autopsy examination determined that Jane Doe had died between 3 to 5 years prior to being found. A 1975 FBI report stated that not 7 but 14 murders carried out between 1972 and 1975 were committed by the same person. The list of victims over time is growing disturbingly longer, especially in the San Francisco area. Some of the names include Lisa Michelle Smith, aged 17, who was last seen hitchhiking on March 16, 1971, and was reported missing by her foster parents. A woman who used the name Lisa Smith was treated for injuries at Novato General Hospital. However, she left the premises before authorities were able to question her. It is not known if these two women were in fact the same Lisa Smith, and presently, despite conflicting reports, Lisa has never been found. 20-year-old Jeanette Kamahele, a student of Hawaiian descent attending Santa Rosa Junior College, disappeared on the 25th of April 1972 near the Kotati ramp section of Highway 101. A friend of Jeanette's may have possibly witnessed her being abducted and going into a brown Chevrolet pickup truck with a wooden camper fitted. The witness reported seeing a Caucasian male in his mid to late 20s with an afro hairstyle in the vehicle. Jeanette's fate remains unknown. In December 1978, Kerry Ann Graham and Francine Marie Trimble, aged 15 and 14 respectively, vanished after leaving their homes in Forestville, California, for a shopping trip in Santa Rosa, specifically to shop at the Coddingtown Mall. Their bodies were found in July 1979, around 80 miles north of Forestville. They were concealed within garbage bags sealed with duct tape and buried in an embankment within a densely overgrown woodland area adjacent to a remote part of Highway 20, about 12 miles from Willits. The advanced decomposition of the girls' remains prevented the determination of their specific causes of death, though both deaths were classified as homicides. Additionally, Kerry's body was initially mistaken for that of a male until genetic testing corrected the identification. The identities of Kerry Graham and Francine Trimble remained unknown until 2015, when DNA profiling confirmed their identities. 20-year-old Rosa Vasquez disappeared on May 26, 1973. Her body found 3 days later near an entrance to the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. She had been thrown from the road into some shrubbery and had been strangled. 15-year-old Yvonne Quillantang, found strangled in a San Francisco lot on the 10th of June 1973. She was 7 months pregnant at the time of her death. Angela Thomas, aged 16. Her body was found at a middle school playground outside of Daly City near San Francisco on the 2nd of July 1973. She had been smothered to death. Nancy Gidley was 24 years old when she was discovered strangled behind George Washington High School gym on July the 15th of the same year, having last been seen at a motel 3 days prior. The radiographer was found naked, wearing a single earring, and reports suggested that Nancy had deceived her family about the reasons as to why she was travelling to San Francisco. Other potential victims include Nancy Fusey, Laura Odell, Brenda K. Merchant, and Donna M. Braun, all of whom were under the age of 23, the youngest being 14. There are many others who could potentially be linked to the Santa Rosa murders. However, lack of evidence indicates many cannot be linked for certain to the same killer. Police named several suspects they believed were possibly involved in the Santa Rosa murders. An investigator stated that near the body of Carolyn Davis, they discovered a symbol associated with witchcraft, representing the, quote, carrier of spirits. Police documentation from 1975 describes it as a, quote, rectangular shape linked to a square with bars extending alongside, made from twigs or sticks. This symbol was recognised as an occult emblem with roots tracing back to medieval England, raising suspicions of a potential link to the notorious Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is an unidentified serial killer who operated in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s. The killer's identity remains unknown to this day, despite numerous investigations and theories. The Zodiac Killer gained notoriety for taunting law enforcement and the media with cryptic letters, ciphers, and phone calls. The letters often contained details about the murders that only the killer would know, leading investigators to believe they were authentic. The Zodiac Killer is believed to have murdered at least 5 people, though some suspect the actual number may be higher. The case remains one of the most infamous unsolved serial killer mysteries in American history. Some theorists believe that the Zodiac Killer may have been responsible for some, if not all, of the Santa Rosa Hitchhiker murders, due to similarities in the modus operandi and geographic proximity of the crimes. Additionally, there were resemblances noted between an unidentified symbol present in his exorcist letter sent to the San Francisco Chronicle in January 1974, where he writes of his 37 victims, and the Chinese characters found on the missing soy barrel that belonged to Kim Allen. No definitive evidence has been uncovered to conclusively connect the Zodiac Killer to these murders. The main suspect of the Zodiac case was former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender Arthur Lee Allen, who had also been listed as a potential suspect in the Santa Rosa murders. He was unemployed and residing in Sunset Trailer Park in Santa Rosa at the time of the killings. He died in 1992, however, he was a suspect due to circumstantial evidence. Another notorious name thrown into the mix of suspects was serial killer Ted Bundy. He confessed to the murders of at least 30 young women across several states, although the actual number, again, could be higher. Bundy's modus operandi involved approaching his victims in public places, often posing as an authority figure or using fake injuries to gain their sympathy before abducting and murdering them. He was eventually captured in 1978 and sentenced to death for multiple murders. Despite spending time in Marin County, Ted Bundy was ruled out as a suspect in the Santa Rosa Hitchhiker murders by a Sonoma County detective in the 1970s and again in 1989. Detailed credit card records and Bundy's known whereabouts placed him in Washington during some of the disappearances. However, a 2011 San Francisco Chronicle article pointed out that there was enough time for Bundy to travel to California, commit the crimes, and return to Washington based on the dates of his credit card receipts. Bundy was known to travel long distances to commit murder, but some investigators believe the killer likely lived in the Santa Rosa area, familiar with the remote locations where the victims were found. This theory suggests a local individual, possibly someone working as a mail carrier or a public utility worker, was responsible. Suspicions arose regarding Frederick Manali, a 41-year-old instructor of creative writing at Santa Rosa Junior College, following his death in a head-on collision on Highway 12 on August 24, 1976. The former US Army member's involvement was suggested due to the discovery of sadomasochistic drawings he had made depicting one of the victims, former student Kim Wendy Allen, among his possessions. Jack Boken, who died in prison at 78, has also been implicated as a possible suspect in the Santa Rosa Hitchhiker murders. In 2022, his DNA was linked to the 1996 murder of Michelle Veal in California. Boken was already serving time for a series of violent rapes and the attempted murder of a 19-year-old woman in 1997, who testified against him in court. Most of his victims, like Michelle Veal, were sex workers. Boken had a history of criminal behaviour dating back to his youth, including multiple convictions for violent sexual assaults and burglaries. He was known to target women of various ages, including teenagers and adults, and his crimes were characterised by extreme violence. The final suspect is Jim Mordecai, a landscape designer and a high school agriculture teacher. The possibility of Jim being the Santa Rosa killer was explored in a documentary, The Truth About Jim, which aired on the Max streaming service in 2024. In the early 1970s, Jim resided in the San Francisco Bay Area, and his family owned a ranch in a rural area. Jim was known to be familiar with the rural roads in Santa Rosa, and despite having no criminal record, the documentary associated Jim with several sexual crimes. Jim died in 2008, and among his possessions was mismatched jewellery. Curiously, among the jewellery was a single gold hoop earring with orange beads, eerily similar to the design of the earring found at the scene of Yvonne Weber and Maureen Sterling's murders. The family, however, did not keep this jewellery after Jim's death. Therefore, unfortunately, authorities were unable to retrieve it and compare it with the evidence. Jim's DNA was taken by investigators, however, it is not known whether it has been compared to the killer's DNA found in the semen sample that was found on the body of Kim Allen. As of 2024, the case remains open. The individual who killed these women and girls and their motives for doing so remain a mystery. Over half a century has passed since the murders occurred, yet the wounds inflicted upon the community and the families of the victims remain painfully raw. Despite tireless efforts by investigators and the relentless pursuit of truth by the victims' loved ones, the perpetrator of these heinous crimes continue to evade justice.